is Duncan and Kendi Ijuma, who are a couple. Good morning, Duncan and Kendi. Good to see you this morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you, Victor.
All right. Pastor, let me just begin with an opening line from the good work that you do with educating couples on marriage and money. And that is, money cannot buy love, but it can surely complicate it, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. Money is definitely the leading cause of pain, separation, divorce in this country and globally as well. And it's something that we have observed over the years as we've created programs to help couples. We just realized that, you can have, the challenge for many couples is, number one, we don't prepare ourselves for marriage. So we are prepared for our careers. We take years preparing for career. Mm-hmm. You take years. I mean, literally, how many years did you go to school? Then you went to college. Then you went to,
a lot.
And that's just for career.
Mm-hmm.
But then for marriage, what do? We sit in front of an imam or a pastor for a few sessions, and then you're married for the rest of your life, something which will outlast your career.
Come on, but Pastor, it's not that serious.
Well, I guess many people who are watching would probably disagree with you because people discover too late that this thing is actually, it outlasts your career, Mm-hmm. So first of all, we don't prepare people for marriage.
Yeah.
And our culture used to have ways. The African culture was very rich in preparing people for marriage. But then now with the urbanization, modernization, people moving into the cities, that all broke down. So many people just find each other. Nowadays, it's even online. You find somebody on YouTube, you find somebody on Instagram, and within a few days, you're living together, and the next thing you're hitched.
Carol, when we talk about preparing for marriage, especially on the aspect of money, what does that mean?
It's exactly that. It's preparing for marriage. It's helping you. It's tackling the issues that you're going to encounter when you get married. Uh-huh. And just to touch on that cultural ways in which we used to get people used to be prepared. Yeah. There's a friend of mine who told me that they used to be prepared for a year. Where you have an auntie walking with you for a year, preparing you for marriage. Well, nowadays we may not be able to do that, but we're looking at the topics and the issues that a couple is likely to face, like how do you handle your in-laws, which is a big thing. How do you handle your different personalities? Mm-hmm. How do you handle the fact that you come from different family backgrounds? We always say that every marriage is cross-cultural, and it's because, even if you're from the same tribe, really your families have very different cultures. Mm-hmm. So how do you even navigate that, as a couple? We also look at parenting. How do you do that? We also look at money, which is what we're talking about today. So it's kind of looking at the hot issues that couples go through, and then deliberately taking you through a process where you discuss this before you get married, or if you never did it, and now you're married and you find yourself just going through quite a number of crises, then coming, even after you're married, to go through that same course.
Okay. Let me just bring in Duncan. Duncan, what I'm getting from Pastor here is that this conversation seems like it should begin even at the dating stage.
I agree with Pastor Wanjao that a lot of times we never really prepare for marriage. You meet someone and you're in love. Your partner is perfect. They can't do wrong. They are angels. And in that aura of love, the vroom, that's where you get married. And discover that you had not discussed the real issues. You maybe measured only on chips Java and, the things that, people approve as of making love or a relationship. But really, real conversation around dealing with your in-laws, dealing with your, relatives post, bringing someone into your life, dealing with money. And as we are talking about money today, conversation is not hard. If you don't have this conversation before you get married, then it's going to be quite something to navigate in the course of your relationship.
All right, and let me just put you to task to that. Kendi, you guys have been married for 7 years. Did you start talking about these things as early as Duncan says?
Yes, Victor. We actually enrolled for some classes, premarital classes. And part of the discussions we'd have is how to handle finances. And you see, at times you could get married and you find out maybe the wife is better in handling finances as compared to the husband. But going for the classes helped us start these discussions early. How do you come out open about finances? How do you start discussing like how you people will be handling money when it comes to family, in terms of your jobs, how will you manage your finances? So I totally agree. It's very necessary. You need to have those discussions right before you get married.
Okay, Prof, clearly everyone in this room agrees that we should have this conversation is early enough. But for some people, it could be a huge turn-off. I mean, it's just our first, we've been dating for a few months and you're starting to talk to me about money and how much are you bringing to the table? And are you ready to pay bills? It could be a huge sort of turn-off and, because of the sensitivity of the matter.
Yeah, the dynamics surrounding marriage and how to do marriage together are great. And just like the Mureidis have said, the traditional African society knew how to prepare their own for marriage, and that meant from the time a child is very small, over the years, and from one developmental stage to the other, there are certain things that children used to be taken through so that they can be efficient and competent within the marriage relationship. Okay. But we are talking about a changed world. We are talking about 21st century, not 19th century or 20th century, where a lot has changed and people have moved from their traditional communities and they have mingled together. And therefore, the subject of how do we prepare, and especially when it comes to sensitive subjects like finances or even intimacy and sex. And we have very few people who do that. Our religious institutions are trying a lot, but with very wide gaps when it comes to efficiency in learning the premarital programs. But again, even efficiency and competency within a marriage relationship, even in terms of managing money, should not start in the 5 sessions or 7 sessions of the premarital counseling classes that are done. And for some of the people, we are talking about maybe 15% or even 10%, because we do not have research findings on how many people are taken through counseling before they get married. So we are looking at a chunk of people who are hardly prepared for the rigors and the challenges within the marriage relationship. Okay. And therefore, what we require as a country, I would want to see a Ministry of Family Affairs in this country, which is focusing on some of those things.
Okay. Quick one. Pastor, how long have you guys been married?
27 years.
27 years. That is...
1994.
Yes, almost my age.
Yes.
That means 1994, right?
Yes.
So 1994 is way back then. There's a way things have changed today. So assume you've been dating Pastor for a few months now, and he starts to bring these conversations about, oh, Caro, by the way, when we get married, how much are you going to bring to the table? Yeah. Would you feel that is a bit of a turn-off, especially back then?
Well, let me just give a scenario.
Because you could easily be, termed as a stingy guy, especially in the current circumstances. Ai, huyu jamaa tumepatana tu leo na ashaanza kuniambia nilipe bill pia mimi.
Yeah. Well, let me just talk a little bit about the scenarios ahead, that can kind of give us the reason why we need to be having these conversations early. You see, in every marriage, we go through stages in marriage. We have the first stage where it's all honeymoon, it's all romantic. It's what we call our dream phase. Yes. And in that dream phase, that's what you're talking about. It's before we get married and, right after we get married. And in that dream phase, we're all dreamy, it's all romantic. We actually don't want even to deal. We're all in the clouds. None of us want to deal with the issues that, in fact, when we notice something is amiss in a relationship, we kind of, we don't pay attention to it, and we feel, when we get married, we're going to sort out this thing. Or if we live together, we're going to sort out this thing. So that is what we call the dream phase. And then, and that one can last, well, before you get married, that's what pushes you to get married. You're talking about the 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, that's where there's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, and so on. But then after that, we move into what we call our drama phase. And in the drama phase, it's exactly that, drama. And that's when you realize, the angels that we were talking about, you realize this person
reality has kicked in.
Reality kicks in. And, and when that reality kicks in, that's when the money conversations, among other things, come in.
Okay.
And it gets very painful. And some of the things that you're talking about is, how do we handle our finances? Is it my money, your money? How do we manage the bills? So much as somebody might not want to talk about this before they get married, I mean, bills are real, man. You know, they are really real. It's as real as, I don't know.
And we will come back to the issue about who should pay more and who should provide more. But let me just bring in Duncan. I mean, Caro has spoken about, you know, the fast phase of being on cloud nine and when reality kicks in. How long did it take you for reality to kick in and you realize we actually have to talk about these things if we are to get married?
And I dreamt for a long time. Then I realized I married someone's daughter who had even a different way of looking at things. Or maybe a little confession. In my home, growing up, my baggage and my background is, if we were doing very well, we would do maybe beef and ugali as a way of highlighting our good moments. But I think in her world, that was ranking very low.
Okay.
So her view of money was different from mine. One of the ways also to say is, for me, money was to make the world happy. So as long as we were happy for today, let's live for today, tomorrow will take care of itself. You know, but then I met a wife who is very structured. She wanted to know, if you're getting money, how are we using it?
Hey.
You know, I'm like, this money, I'm buying happiness. I'm bringing happiness at home. Why are you worried about how? And then I think at some point you realize maybe you're falling behind bills and all that. Before I got married, there's a time I gave someone my money for rent. And I realized those are stunts I can't pull because now she is in my world, you know. So reality kicked in, I think after a year or so, where I realized, hey, we need to have a deeper conversation, because we had started talking about our philosophy for money and all that, but it was clouded in love, you know. It had to be safe. It had to have, you know, color-coded in love, you know, packaging, like, you will take care of everything. I'm the guy you've been waiting for all this time round. So I will, you know, and then reality kicks in. You realize, even as a man, you need help. You know, before that, you were showing her in hotels, you're the one paying the bills, telling her, I will take care of you more than your parents ever tried to do, you know. But then reality kicks in that there are times you need help. And even the money conversation has to kick in terms of, how do you ask for help? And how do you talk about how money will work within between the two of you?
Okay.
So, I think a year down the line, I was I didn't even have a proper job. You know, I'm in business. Sometimes you do a job in January and they pay you in December. So that conversation has to be brought on the table and say, hey, I have a lot of money, but it's not with me now. Could we use a little bit of yours to buy a house? You know, things like that, yes. Yeah,
okay. So, Pastor, now that we all agree that money is an important conversation before marriage, then should you know, finances be a factor when you're choosing a partner?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I think a lot of things need to be factors, huh? And factors, the biggest factor is values. When you find somebody that you like, as we're talking about, you know, there's something called emotion and romance. That was never the biggest factor back in the traditional days. And I think those people are very wise. Because they realize that, you know, romance is a fleeting emotion.
Wow.
And that's the thing that nobody ever tells you when you're getting married, by the way. It's a fleeting emotion. You will be on cloud nine for a while, and then when reality checks in, it's going to have to be commitment, it's going to have to be choice, it's going to have to be friendship. Those are the things that will see your marriage through, not the feelings. Feelings are just, they're fleeting. And so the thing is, when you're in the middle of your fleeting feelings, that's when you want to, and feelings, I'm not downgrading feelings. It's good to like somebody. It's good to feel that, mama, you know. But I think the question then you need to start asking yourself is, our values aligned? Do we think the same way about important issues? So one of the things that we try and encourage couples, and that we did as well when we were getting married, or when we were dating, is we said, okay, let's educate ourselves. Rather than just sitting in a nice restaurant and looking at each other's eyes and just drinking in love. You know, that's what couples do. Find something that can input, you know, give yourself wisdom. So number one, take that class, you know. So we run a class called Ndoa at Mavuno Church. And it's a class that will help you then begin to focus and prepare. As we're talking, this is a premarital counseling we're talking about. But also, if you're not ready for that step yet, buy a book. And or go online, and nowadays you can get a lot of stuff on YouTube. Get some good premarital stuff or marriage preparation stuff, and just listen to it together. And use that as a content for your conversation. Don't just talk about birds and bees and all those nice things out there, you know. Have the interesting conversations about what's your background like? Where do you guys come from? How do you guys see how she treats her sisters?
And
those are important issues.
Surely the kids will watoto lazima wakule kitu. They have to eat something.
Lazima. So you want to understand how, even, by the way, understanding her family is very critical. Because when you see how their family operates, that will tell you how your family will operate. That's a value she will bring into your family.
Prof.
So that whole idea of just knowing each other beyond the romance. Because nowadays people hook up. I think the way people hook up nowadays is you meet somebody, you like them, the next thing you're sleeping together, the next thing you've moved in, and then the thing just evolves. You have a baby, and now you're calling your parents, you know? That whole unstructured thingy doesn't lend itself to lifelong happiness. And then people say marriage doesn't work. Actually, marriage works. It's just that when you do it wrong, then it will not work right for you. So I think that's what I'd push for couples.
Prof, surely if kama lazima watoto wakule, then it means there's surely nothing wrong with Caro, you know, looking at pastor and saying, "Hey, huyu jamaa hana kakitu bwana, tukioana."
Indeed, because we are saying money is a facilitator, because there are needs within a family that needs to be met, and there are many, and those many needs we have to factor in. Where is the money going to be coming from? Talking about babies and babies with their many needs, from the time they are needing milk or they are needing to be taken to the hospital, many things that happen. And therefore, the subject of talking about money is an important subject. And just like Pastor Muredi said, that we need to sit on the table or even look for information so that you can critically understand how do you handle money. But again, we are coming with experiences from where one is coming from. If in a family you are well provided, like Duncan is saying regarding the wife, then you're coming with a concept of how to spend money in the way you learned how to. And therefore, talking about this will help the couple to be able to unpack what used to happen in their families of origin, where they are coming from. And because they have started a family that may not be as well provided as where they are coming from, or they are not struggling with finances as where they are coming from, that they need to get their own model and their own approach of how to spend the money or how to manage their finances, and even how to make sure that they are transparent about their sources of money, so that one is not feeling, and you don't tell me, or there is something that you hide away from me, and I'm coming to mistrust you, and I'm having difficulties becoming secure with you, because there are many other things that crop up when there is no transparency regarding monies, and where there is no fairness in terms of distribution of responsibilities of what one is supposed to take care of within the marriage arrangement and the family arrangement.
Okay. Kendi, is it okay for you to say, well, you and Duncan are really so much in love, is the perfect guy that you needed and you're ready to settle down with, but venye kuko, and you hatuwezi lea watoto na umse, and just decide, by the way, let me just look for someone else?
It's possible. You see, when you meet each other, you hardly see the bad things in this person.
Yeah.
You know, because, as you said, like Pastor Morita said, you're in love, you know. And later on, when you start living with this person, you realize there are things. You see, like we're talking about finances, or maybe this person doesn't open up. I think, for me, I think that that works in a marriage relationship is if you start having open conversations early, and then also let this person be your friend, so that even if he's made a mistake, because those things will happen in a marriage relationship, you're able to tell him, as my friend, I think what you did here was wrong. You know, no feelings involved, but what you did here was wrong as far as finances are concerned. You know, But it's so possible. It's possible to meet someone and say, this is not the person that I met. But having conversations and learning to talk, communicate, and also having this person as your friend, you're able to tackle those difficult situations.
Okay. So, Pastor, then now that we all agree on this aspect about money before relationship, and clearly where there is no clarity, where you and Carol don't agree on how you're going to move forward with money, there's certainly going to be conflict. So what are those questions you should ask during courting before you stand before the pastor and be, unionized?
I think the thing about it is, wisdom is knowing that you don't know. When you know you don't know, that's a good thing. When you think you know, that's where you're in trouble. And I think that's one thing we realize very quickly, because we don't know what you don't know what you don't know. And so the first thing we decided to do when we were dating is we said, okay, let's look for some good dating books. Wacha tusome, tuone what guys are telling us we should know, because there's such a whole world. Imagine you're 25, 30, you're going to marry someone and you're saying till death do us part. When are you going to die? Probably when you're 90 or whatever.
Okay.
You're committing the rest of your life to this individual. So I think we were like, hey, we better just make sure we are asking the right questions. When you tell me which questions should be asking, there's a whole bunch of questions I should be asking. But the books now helped us begin to understand. Okay, so number one, family of origin. Understand the family of origin. Now her family, she was in a business family. People who come from Biashara, I know that Duncan has said that he is a businessman. Business people have that tendency of, they work hard, they get money, then they enjoy the money. Now that's her family. So pesa ikuzoea, to me ikuzoea. So you enjoy, when it comes, you enjoy it. Now for me, I grew up civil servant family. Civil servant family, pesa nakuja kidogo.
Mshahara mwisho wa mwezi.
Mwisho wa mwezi. So it never comes a lot. So you never have a lot.
Okay.
Now imagine now when you get married, the minute we have some money in the bank, she's already thinking, what plan can we have? We want to be happy. Me, I'm thinking, wow, we could be broke if we eat this. So already you can see that's going to be a problem. So begin to understand your origin. Where does she come from? Then begin to understand your backgrounds in terms of your temperament. Because all of us have temperament. Some of us are very easy. We enjoy life. We're the life of the party. Some of us, we like things under tight control. And the funny thing is, opposites attract. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes.
You will never attract somebody who's like you. You'll always attract the opposite. And we always say opposites attract until they attack. Because what happens is eventually you'll get to realize this thing that attracted me to the person is the thing that drives me crazy about this person. So begin to understand your temperaments and why you're so different. Because those things now help you later. When you start to see the guy doing something, you don't think he's the devil. You realize it's just that's his temperament. And what are the weaknesses of that temperament? And he also understands that, so he asks for help. I love what Kendi said. When you become friends, you're actually able to ask. Because, me, I have weaknesses, and she knows. So I don't have to hide, because we've already discussed those weaknesses. So when it comes to money, she's able to tell me, my temperament is a controlling temperament. So I like to be in charge of things, So she's able to tell me, you know what, here, you're being too much in control. You're going to make our kids grow up miserable. They need her, because her temperament is a lot more relaxed. So she's able to say, you need me, because our home, if we leave it to you, our home will be a military camp. Okay. So I think when you work together as a team, you begin to understand those are her strengths, these are my strengths. I'm not threatened by her strengths. We stop competing. Too many couples compete. It's like you're fighting to show that your way is better. But when we understand that our ways are different, I'm able to see, what do I like? What do we like in your family? Let's adopt it for our family. What do we like in mine? Let's adopt. Rather than saying, no, this is how marriage is meant to be run. So I think some of those things become very important for couples to be talking about. In-laws, maybe you're marrying a guy who, whenever his mom speaks, he even stands up when he's talking on the phone. You need to be asking yourself, is that a good thing?
Yeah.
And what causes that?
And I like
will you be talking with him and then the mom calls and he runs off and leaves you? So these are things that people when they're dating, they don't think about, but eventually they'll become major sore issues. So it's not that you won't marry him, but at least by understanding the issue, you're able to address it before it becomes a concern.
Okay. All right. So, Prof, now that we have all agreed on perhaps the few things that you should do before, you get married, and let's say we have done some of these basic things, and now we are married, and we are now living together, and all this part of the reality that Carol was talking about kicks in. What are these things that drive people apart immediately after they get married? Because when we were dating, we didn't see them. But now we live under the same roof and we realize, oh, this is how it is.
Yeah. You know, like when we are talking about during courting and dating and courtship and the things that people are taken through, that is more theoretical. But then when we are saying that reality kicks in, it is when now the practicals start happening at a personal level. And then you start realizing we are not in the honeymoon. We are in the real act of doing the marriage together. And some of the things that make marriages come to a deadlock or even break up, the separations and the divorces, is when one feels you're not transparent. Where did you get the money I saw in your bag?
Okay.
I can't understand the reason as to why you have to, you don't want us to talk about money. So not talking about it, not communicating about it. And at the same time, we have seen families, like when we receive families for counseling in our offices, and this couple, a wife is saying, I have been beaten because of money. Because for him, he's like a distributor. When he has his money, he distributes to the different places where he wants the money to go. But for me, I am a retailer. I would want to hold, I would want to keep, I don't want to spend a lot. That's my approach. That's what I believe works for me. And so when he comes and beats me or insults me or demands of me that I sell a piece of rod that daddy gave me, I don't understand, and this is not something that I'm going to bear. When a person does not want to take up responsibilities, her money or his money is for enjoying, but his money is the one that we need to use here.
Okay.
Those kind of concepts don't make sense to people, and they hurt and they pain, and they feel this is not the kind of a relationship or even experience that I had budgeted for.
Okay. And you raise a very valid point about the issue of transparency, which is a huge thing. Let me just start with Duncan. That transparency issue comes especially when we start talking about how we should share responsibilities. Maybe from where you sit, do you guys share responsibilities? Does one partner maybe shoulder a bit more of the responsibilities?
Well, we are very interesting. I think we share responsibility. One of the things we did very early on is we realized we are a team. So we sort of have a philosophy, like we hunt as a pack, and we share pretty much responsibility. As I said earlier, as a businessman, sometimes I do work and payment delays. Because she is my friend, I can actually reach out to her and say, hey, these are the, because this is how my monies will come in. This is how, monies will come in.
Okay.
And these are usually our bills. So would you please,
okay,
chip in, work on this? And one of the things we do is on major, we have predictable bills. So things like house bills, food and all that. That one I've said, hey, Linda, can you sort out this as I focus on global issues like where are we going to have our inheritance for our children?
Okay.
But yes, the short answer is yes, we do. We share responsibility.
Okay, but from the way you speak, you sound like you shoulder part of the major and bigger responsibilities.
It just depends with how we look at it. One, of course, from the culture I come from, Jesus has saved me, but I still have, the man responsibility. Show the world that you're protecting your family kind of approach.
Yeah.
But I have not shied away from reaching out and asking for help when I'm down.
Okay.
So yes and no, depending on how we look at it.
Maybe before even we answer that question, we should ask Pastor, do we have a situation where one partner should provide for more, or should we provide all of us equally? You guys are looking at
well,
I love it.
We've had situations. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, we've had situations. So for us, I think our model is one of partnership. And what we do is that we look at the strengths. First of all, we say that whatever we have goes into a common pot. We believe that whatever anyone is bringing in, it's actually God who has provided for us. And so we look at it from that perspective. It's not his money or my money. We look at it at that perspective. And one of the advantages of that is that, I remember there are times when I've been working and he's not. And there are times when he's been working and I've not. And the beauty, or at least what we have seen working, is that when you have that, I'm the one who is doing this, I'm the one who's earning more, or these are my responsibilities, then it's very easy to have power plays. The person who is earning more then has more power in that relationship. So for us, that's why we said, whatever we're bringing in is for us. And so when it comes to when it comes to one pot, then really it is who is the one responsible to pay, to do the bills. It could be me or it could be him. And there we go by strengths. I'm not there. I mean, for me, I'm not as organized as he is. Yeah. But because he had that controlling nature, and I kept feeling that he's controlling, then he gave over the control or the reign of managing money to me.
Okay.
And again, that's just because of our couple dynamics. So we look and we say, okay, who's the entrepreneur, who's the visionary, and who's the person who is able to manage? He's the visionary. I happen to manage. If, as a visionary, he's able to start so many projects, but without a good system of running them, then none of them can succeed. And so we look at it as a partnership. And
that ties in a way with the question that we asked guys this morning, that if they are married, who manages the finances? Will be something part of that feedback in a short while. Yes, that was the question. Are you married, and who manages the finances? Sakida Jepke Moy says, yes, income is very important when choosing a partner. I think that was in regards to our question earlier on whether you should actually use what someone earns as a factor when choosing a partner. Frederick says, divide the bills and let everyone manage their own finances. Time has changed. Thank you, Frederick. Julius Otieno Oko says, let's face it, the marriage institution is failing because we don't respect family institutions. If we don't emphasize on the divine sanctity of family institution, marriage will fail. That is Julius Otieno Oko. First of all, just before I go back to Prof, do you want to add to what Carol was saying?
Yes, I think. Well, you know, when the gentleman who shared and said people should just divide money, divide responsibility. Yeah. You know, marriage is supposed to be oneness. And when you build a house with two different foundations right from the start, that house will fall. It will fall. And so I think one of the things that you need to be working on is how do we become one? If I can trust you with my body and I cannot trust you with my wallet, there is a problem.
A very big
problem, you know? And so it means right from the selection point, I was not careful in how I selected. So we have to work towards building our trust for one another. And I think one of the things that she was saying, you know, when there are times when I was a jogo, you know, I'm the one providing. I'm also like Dan Kam, I'm from the culture where I want the man to be the one. But there are times when, I remember a time in our lives when for 2 years, I wasn't working. I didn't have a job, and I was just hustling and helping. She had a steady, regular job. But because right from the onset we had decided our money goes into a pot, and then actually what we do is we pay the bills from that pot and we give each other allowances. Okay. So we on a requisition, how much is your allowance should be. Yeah. Now hers is always higher than mine because as you can see our hairstyles have different cost implications. Okay. Typically it's about.
And I actually have a lot of follow-up questions to that, but let me just pick this call. I think a caller from Bungoma. If you can hear me, good morning and welcome to the show, Alfred. Do you have a question or a comment?
Good morning. My name is Alfred Mukenya. I'm calling you from Bungoma, right from the neighborhood of Duncan and Linda.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much. I would like to maybe ask a question. What advice would this couple give to this young generation, let's say a young man who is not yet is planning to go into marriage, and in this financial bit, what qualities they are going to look for in a woman, in a partner, and how they should handle these finances, the financial issue, how they are going on. Do they just go into this with the fact that they're the main provider as our fathers and mothers trained us, or have times changed? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alfred. That is Alfred from Bungoma. Maybe, Prof, do you want to respond to that question? Because I know you directed it to the couples, but let me just start with you.
Yeah, just ask it so that I can get it with clarity.
He said the advice that we have for couples going into marriage, should there be one person who is a major provider, or should we sort of share responsibility?
Right. When it comes to reality is that one person can be having more income at one point, and at another point, she or he does not have as much income. And therefore, it's about looking at how to deal with the finances on a continuous basis, because there are also emerging issues. A child gets sick, or maybe school fees is going to be required, and therefore more needs are coming that need to be taken care of. And therefore the two should be very frugal, and they should also communicate regarding what needs to be handled, what are our regular bills, our regular spending, and what are the emerging issues that we are dealing with. So we would want to say that it's important to bring things on the table and talk about them and be realistic about them.
Yeah.
When we talk about the man as the major provider, that, like in our therapy rooms, we pick a lot of hurt and pain that comes from those cultural orientations and cultural beliefs, because if this man is not the one who is having income at some particular times, does that mean that now he's not important in this family? How is he going to be regarded, and how does he regard himself? The burden of the man being the one who is the sole provider is something that we need to delete completely in the 21st century moving forward, and know that the two, man and wife, come together in the modern world to make sure that we are going to be fair in how we divide the responsibilities of meeting the needs that are there, financial, in the family.
Okay.
So I would want to say that it takes a lot of being friends and talking through and being realistic and being fair to your partner, so that we can move things forward, financially speaking, without also allowing money to manage us. But as a couple, that you are the ones to manage the finances and the money. Money cannot be bigger than you. You have to be bigger than the monies and resources and finances that you have.
Wonderful. Do you guys want to respond briefly?
Yeah, I think for me, I love what Prof is saying. And I just also love what Duncan and Kendi are saying. I mean, I think you have some really good panelists today. Yeah. Proverbs 18:22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from God." I think what people don't understand is when you become a team. I love what Duncan said, that we're at park, we hunt together. People mistake that. They think that I want to hide money from the woman. That's what I've been taught by my culture. I don't want to tell her what I earn in case she takes advantage. You know, we don't understand that when you actually are a team, there's a third element that comes in. I believe the Creator is blessed because marriage is his idea. And there's a favor that comes to a couple that choose to work together. And it's not just a favor of you won't get broke. Actually, I think you can create great wealth. So we run a course called Couples and Money. It's an online course. And we teach couples about this. And I remember, I'll give you one quick story. There's a couple who came on. The guy runs a fantastic farm, very successful. He's a great guy. His wife was at home looking after the kids, and she had done that. Now she was doing her own thing. He's very happy to provide for her. Class 1. The guy realized this is the best partner God gave you, and there's a reason why God gave you this partner. So he began to ask her, why don't you work in the farm? She used to sign, she was a signatory actually. At least he was at that level where he would allow her to be the signatory of the business. And he asked her, what do you think of the business? And the woman gave him some ideas. The guy said, you've been sitting with all these ideas all this time watching me suffering. And he put for her an office immediately. That same week, he put for her an office in his company. Let me tell you, in about 4 weeks, their company had taken a trajectory. And he came and confessed to us and said, I would never have been able to afford the help I'm getting from this woman. Because her level of education, her level of passion and ownership of this business is at the next level. And no, anybody else I hire, I have to think about loyalty. This one already is loyal because she knows this is for our kids. So the guy was robbing himself. I mean, he was already successful, But he was robbing himself of his full potential because he was not working as a team with his wife. So I think for me, it's just challenging people who are watching this. Listen, forget that cultural thing of keeping, hiding things from your spouse, making sure you're safe. The more teamwork you have, the farther you will go.
Okay. Duncan, I'm sure you've had situations of people who unfortunately pass away and there are billions and billions worth of properties which the spouse did not know, and they end up either with the Unclaimed Assets Authority or with the people who are managing them at that point.
Yes, we've had, these are cases you guys run every other day on news, The good book says, of what benefit is it to a man to amass wealth and have it inherited, one by a foolish son, or when your family doesn't even just benefit from your sweat? One of the realities is, I heard someone say, children, if you leave them wealth, they will forget you and all that. So what you need to do is watch madeni so that they can remember you forever.
Yeah.
On a light note. But here's the thing. A lot of I was talking to someone who said prudence is also hiding something from your wife for a rainy day. But what they don't realize sometimes is you're opening an exit door, and trust me, there will always be reasons to use that exit.
Okay.
When you plan for that rainy day you're talking about, the rains will surely come. And so I think sometimes it's just, why would you want to also punish your family to track down your wealth and all that when you are gone? Yet all you needed is to be transparent. If anything, there are people who have a lot of wealth, more than they can ever consume in one lifetime.
Okay.
Why can't you planning around it? And also, more importantly, I feel it's so bad when your spouse is the one trying to hurt by trying to say, hey, I was actually this guy's wife and you all knew it. Please, I need a piece of, and those are things we can learn from some of those examples and just say, you know what, let's just run this thing. Of course, I say this also on a light note. There is a rumor and stories around the man being the one who will die first. So a lot of times you'll hear in conversation, people say, hey, why should I put you as my next of kin as a man?
Yeah.
In case
and you will die anyway.
You'll die before me anyway. So I think when you understand the value of each other, when you understand the teamwork and all that, there'll be need for closure. Can you imagine if for example, if I bought my wife today a 20 million car, one of the things I know is her trust for me will just fall, because she'll be asking me, where did the surprise of 20 million, where did this money? So building values that help you bond together. And sometimes all you want as a man is more than what money can buy. The peace at home, sometimes we already have what we're looking for, so to say.
Okay. So, Duncan, and let me just hold you there, because you've raised a very valid point with the issue of buying a 20 million car, because there's also the aspect of the spending habits. There are those of us who are, they're the spenders, and those who are savers, and I think Prof had raised earlier on. I think we have a caller, right? That is Kiplagat. Okay, all right, okay.
Good morning, Victor.
Yes, good morning, Kiplagat, if you can hear us.
Okay, what I wanted to contribute?
Yes.
There's one thing I wanted to say. Like when you're working together as a family, you should first check your cultural differences, then work to being as one unit working together.
Okay.
As for me, there's a training which I underwent. It is called Family Life. And it has got 3 Ks, which means kuondoka, kuambatana, kuwa mji moja. So kuondoka, it means you are leaving your home, then you meet this partner. Kuambatana is being together now. Kuwa mji moja is now when you are married, then you become one body and one family, which means you have to work together as a unit and being open to one another, trustworthy, caring, and understanding. So when it comes to matter solving problems, you have to work out together first before involving even any other person from outside. This means you have to check on your differences, come together, put everything on the table, then you solve them one by one to the end. We'll be at one step, working together, way forward.
Okay.
So from there, I believe you can work together, solve your issues, and everything will be fine. But there's only one thing. Nobody is more superior than the other.
Okay.
Now, the Bible says, yes, the man is the head and the woman is the neck. But now, the head cannot walk without the neck.
Okay.
And the neck cannot walk without the head. So, the only thing is to work together as one, and you live a peaceful life.
Okay. Thank you, Kiplagat from Baringo County there, my home county. And Caro, I think the issue of superiority goes back to the issue raised about power play earlier on. Because when we attach this financial capabilities and my ability to provide to who is superior and who is who in the relationship, when I can't provide, it sort of means I can no longer be the man in the house.
Yeah. I think that when we talk about cultural perspectives, I mean, it's a very big thing, and it comes with that assumption that the man is the one who is providing. Now, the only thing is that, even as Prof said, we're not in the 19th century or even the 20th century, we're in the 21st century, and so the realities are very different. And you find that the cultural perspectives that we had or that were passed down to us are not realistic in the 21st century. And the ability of a family or even a people to survive depends on their ability to adopt to the new realities. So we do need to adopt to the new realities and to say what is practically, what are we able to do. But beyond the practicality, there's also the Bible, that or the Bible that talks about we are a team, which is a very important thing. Now, I know we've been talking about the man being the provider, but I can think of a couple where the woman, when they were getting married, got married a little later in their years, and she had amassed great wealth compared to the man. And so they were discussing, or she was talking about prenuptials. She was like, there's no way I'm going to share my money with this man. I mean, I have earned it, and I don't see why I need to share it with him. So I guess it goes both ways. I mean, of course, there's a man's perspective. I'm the provider. What does it mean if I cannot provide? But then there are also women who have a lot of money. And when you're getting married, you're like, really, can I share this money with him? Yeah. And whereas I may not, say, probably the better thing to say is just give a principle regarding that. And to say, if you make money, because that's a power play that we're talking about. Yeah. If we make money the major thing in the relationship, then that thing, it fails to answer questions of the future. The problem about the future is that we have no control over it. That woman may have a lot of money, or that person may have the money where you have passive income, so you don't even need to work for that money. And so, you can feel superior at that particular time. But how about if you fall sick? And that happens. What if you fall sick and your relationship was based on a power play? And now you actually do need to depend on someone to take care of you. I mean, of course, you can afford the nursing care and so on, but how about your spouse? Wouldn't you want your spouse, the one who you've shared your life with, to be concerned for you? Because I feel at that time it can be a very painful reality when you realize that your money, this powerful thing that you had, is not answering all the questions that you're facing in the current reality. So for that kind of person, it's good to say, really, am I going to allow money to be the thing, the power thing, the card that I'm using in this relationship? I think it can be a bit short-sighted.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break. We have been talking about money in relationships and marriage. But when we come back, of course, we have all agreed that we should share money, we should disclose all that we earn, but where do we put it? Do we put it in a joint account, or do we manage it separately? Number two, in cases of dissolution, does it mean that I should keep some little bit of my income just in case we separate and I have something to keep myself going? We tell you all that after this quick break.
With a minimum deposit of 500 Kenya shillings per month, Tower Sacco gives you an opportunity to save and grow your deposits and enjoy good returns. Access credit facilities at Tower Sacco from 3 to 5 times your deposits. For more details, email us at info@towersacco.co.ke. Tower Sacco, a basket for all your financial needs.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex.
Protex. Good health starts here.
Ni swala ambalo limetatiza mafisi wengi. Huenda ikawa anayepiga simu anataka kukula fea, ama msupa amejipa kiroho safi. Nduru za kuaminika zimetufikia ya kwamba
to get more mafisi, dial star 811 star 935 hash. Skiza na Nation.
Hey, yo, what's up? It's Antonio Sola. I have some amazing news for you. Ha! Something fresh, something new, something exciting, something free happening right here on NTV. This week, 27th of May at 10 p.m. It is the biggest party, NTV Mashup Party, hosted by yours truly and DJ E on the 1 and 2. And we have special guests. It is the Jack and Prince Mpezisi all the way from Zimbabwe, coming to launch their brand new music video called Free. Keep using the hashtag FreeTheJacks and let's be free.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Oh, there you are. We told you we'd be back before you know it. And we are talking about marriage and money on your world this morning. My guests, Pastor Murithi Wanjawa and Pastor Carol Wanjawa, joining me in studio. And so is Professor Catherine Kashuda. She's a counseling psychologist. And joining us virtually is, of course, Duncan and Kendi Juma as we drive this conversation. And maybe just to get us back into this conversation, let me read something that a friend of mine was told by the aunt, that if you have to have a joint account, make sure it is such that you both must sign to get money out of the account. Pastor?
I think that is, you know, there's something they call the speed of trust, even in business.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you slow down your marriage to the greatest inefficiency because you did not work on trust.
Mm-hmm.
By the time my wife needs to buy some groceries and I have to be able to come in to put in my PIN or whatever so she can get money, it just shows that our marriage is completely inefficient. So I think part of it is the person who wrote that, you need to work on the most basic thing. Before money is trust. Money is built on, it's a tool. It's not the thing in your marriage. That trust relationship is it. If you have that, then that stops being an issue. So I think for that person, I'd say, for our own marriage, I mean, she has full access. She knows my PINs, by the way. She knows my phone PIN as well. There's nothing that...
Pastor, what if she wakes up and walks away with all your money?
That is the whole thing. When you gave your life to somebody, you need to understand when you made those vows. That is what you were saying. Because love is risk. And if you're not willing to take risk, then don't love. You see, the thing is, you are entering a marriage without understanding what a marriage was.
Pastor, I've been taking risks in business. I've been taking risks in my career. I've been taking so many risks. I mean, I just want to come home and not feel like it's a risk.
So I put a contract to bind you, but do I really love you? If I put a contract around you, then what I'm saying is this marriage has covered all its risks by me put. I mean, it's the same question. We had a conversation earlier about prenups.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue in our country now. I think people are talking, especially young people are talking about it quite a bit. And the thing I say is, number one, you need to understand that marriage is a covenant. And a covenant is a huge thing. Whenever I listen to the vows, you know, I'm the pastor, so I'm often doing wedding vows for people. And you hear them say those things they say to each other. You know, I give you everything. That's what you're really saying. All that I am, I give to you. All that I have, I share with you within the love of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You listen to those words and say, do you understand what you're saying? Because what you're really saying is, I have put myself at risk to love you. And so the first thing is, be careful who you pick.
Yeah.
Because if you're picking the person you cannot trust, then you really need to take a bit more time to make sure that you've got the right person. Get equipped, you know, get the counsel, get the wisdom, get the equipping. Because by the time you're signing that dotted line and saying, I am now yours, you really need to have dealt with trust issues.
Let me just hold you there, Pastor, because, Prof, I mean, Pastor is here, I would say, is arguing from a religious perspective of people who have sat down with the pastor, they understand how marriage is a covenant, but there are those of us, as you had mentioned earlier, it was just a relationship, and now we have ended up, and we are now, you know, husband and wife. And clearly, from the way you and I, Prof, are seeing, you don't trust me that much with money. Yes, you love me, you do everything, but you think, hapo kwa mambo ya pesa kidogo. Isn't there a genuine case for prenups?
The prenups.
Maybe we can explain prenups faster and then, yeah.
Yeah. There is, when people are getting married, they are coming with their own resources, and you do the prenups because you would want to say this or these are my resources. And yes, we are going to do life together.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what I had earned before and what I was able to make for myself, this we are not counting it as joint resources within the marriage. And that is where the problem now starts. Because now you feel you're not together. There is no oneness in this. There is someone who is more endowed, and therefore when challenges of money come, they can always go to their own resources and get the resources from there. So you're starting the marriage from different places. You're not starting the marriage from the same point. And I agree with Pastor Mureithi when he's saying that we need to put ourselves as marriage partners in a very vulnerable position, because the commitment of a marriage is not just any other commitment, but it's a very deep commitment, because when you bring the mistrust to the children, their personalities are going to be developed against the mistrust, against the toxicity of the fights that you are having as the partners. And children will not understand, why is daddy not having money when mommy has money? They cannot understand that. And they are seeing there is a problem here. And therefore, prenups, they are there in law. People can have their own prenups. But from where I sit as a counseling psychologist, we have seen marriages going down, breaking, divorces happening because of those prenuptials, because there is mistrust, and the cohesion that was supposed to be developed by the two people coming together is not there. Allow me to mention that people will come with their own inefficiencies. They will come with their own deficiencies. And yes, you can look at your partner and see that my partner is lacking in terms of money management. But this is a person who would be willing to learn, to educate self, to be educated, to be helped. And people need to come for therapy, like in the beginning of the year, so that we can evaluate. And maybe the middle of the year to see where you are at in terms of the things that you had committed yourself to do in the beginning of the year. So things can be done unless people are completely sick or dysfunctional. And that's a very small percentage of people.
Okay, let me just hold you there because I think I have yet another caller who is ready to speak to us. That is Charles. Good morning, Charles. Talk to us. Where are you calling from? And do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I'm Charles from Kitengela.
Yes, Charles.
Yeah, I have this question concerning money and marriage.
Yes.
Why does it happen like the moment the husband is providing, you feel useful and purposeful in that family, and there's a way you are respected. But the moment things doesn't go well, now you are not the breadwinner, you are not the provider. They see you as a burden, as a failure in that family. Even the in-laws comes in, they see that you are useless to their sister. Because I've once found myself in that situation. I'm 3 years married. And I can ask for the advice from you guys.
Okay. Maybe we can start with Kendi and Duncan on this side. Thank you, Charles from Kitengela.
Thanks, Charles, for that. The way I look at it, or we look at it, in marriage, you go through different seasons. And I can give our example. Currently, I'm in employment. He's not. He's in business. COVID happened. I mean, it happened last year. He had already started pitching his business and all. He normally deals with training and people. When COVID happened, his business stopped. And as a wife, my value for him does not change just because he provides. He's still my husband, whether he provides or not. I don't think marriage should be defined by the money we have or by him providing. We're already married. We are one unit. We are one team. Money is an addition. It's just like children. If they're not children in a marriage, does it mean that we are not a family? You know, or if we don't have, he's not able to provide, does it mean that his value changes for me? So I think for couples, we also need to realize we will go through seasons in marriages. There are times he's able to provide, there are times he's not. There are times I'm able to provide, and there are times, there are times I'm not able to provide, and there are times he's able to provide. But that should not change our relationship. We got married first. God blessed us with the money. And even if we go through whatever season we go through, we are still one team. We should not change how we see each other as a couple.
Okay. And that's a very good response. But Kendi, let me just hold you there. That can only work if you guys have been, keeping things and putting everything on the table from the word go. And you agree that this is all our income. No one is hiding anything. And that means when one partner is no longer able to perhaps fulfill the part of the responsibilities, the other one can step in because they can trust you utmost, right?
Well, let me quip in. The reality of it is that sometimes people get married for the wrong reason. You can get married to someone because you can see that they can give you the future you have aspired to. So in your list of tall, dark, handsome, you said if he has something, if his bank balance looks, I want him.
Yes.
And then you go in, then he loses his job. And so the premise for which you formed your union tested. So there's almost a 99.9 recurring chance that relationship will break because you only saw this other partner through the filters of what he was able to do for you. And worse still, you use the very low metrics of money as a value. So you saw people through the value of what they were bringing on the table. So when that is shaken, there's a saying in my village that kuku ni kuku, jogo ni jina. That sometimes being humble enough to know that as you risk living with this person, there will be the changing circumstances. I've told my wife many times that in case we argue in public, please let me win so that the people know that. Because we are in Africa. But in the background, I know the reality is
she won.
When I come to the house, she pulls shots. She's an equal partner, so she can tell me on my face that I'm goofy, and things like that. So I'm just saying that conversations around money are interesting. I know of relationships that are broken because the economics changed, or you fail to readjust. Think of even the COVID context. where you have been living in maybe a posh estate and things are not working. Humbling yourself, talking to your spouse and saying, hey, we now need to go to a bed sitter. That shouldn't be a hard conversation if you guys are friends, because you're analyzing your realities. But if you guys have been using emblems of success, using external metrics, there's a higher chance that you will not survive the turbulence, because all relationships will be tested. And sometimes if someone mentioned about sickness, it might just be a sickness that will test whether you're actually willing to spend that money that you put in that, account on the spouse that you have always said you love.
Okay.
And so sometimes our hearts are trick our heads, so to say. That our hearts play tricks with our heads, where you say, I really love you, but then to this extent, which is then a bigger lie if you talk to me.
All right, thank you, Duncan. I think that's quite comprehensive. But there's a small issue that I want to take you guys back to on the aspect of sharing responsibilities, because there's a very common saying out there, by the way, that if I am Carol and Pastor Murithi is Carol would say, pesa yangu, pesa yangu. Pesa yako, ndio pesa yetu.
Yeah.
Let me just start with you.
I think that's it's a cultural presuppositions we were talking about before, and maybe they worked back in the day. The industry, the world was the labor market was a man's market. The men were the ones getting employed, especially in colonial, just pre-colonial, post-colonial times, and the woman's job was to stay home. Subsequently, things have changed dramatically, and so you're using a 19th or 20th century model and applying it, as the prophet said, to a 21st century reality. It will lead to pain, it will lead to hurt, and eventually it will lead to weakness, even if you accept it. Because there's couples, by the way, Victor, who are okay with it. The guy is fine, I'll provide, you keep your money. But ultimately, I'll even challenge that couple. Even if it's working for you financially, it's not working for you in terms of your financial intimacy, and it's not working for you in terms of your effectiveness, full effectiveness. There are probably some things that God created you for as a couple, because every couple, I believe, has a purpose, and a God-ordained purpose. And by the way, some of these things, Victor, it's easy to call them religious, but in 27 years of counseling couples and working with couples, we've seen there's some things that are principles. Gravity is a principle. Whether you're a tongue-speaking Christian who's just come from a 40-day prayer fast and you walk off a building, you will fall, because that is a principle. And there's some things that are principles whether you're religious or not. And I think oneness is one of those principles. When you're one as a couple, you will go much farther. So I think one of the things I challenge couples when they have such presuppositions, I say, look, it might even be working, but number one, you're teaching your kids that value, and it might not work for them. So the question is, what about if you teach your kids that, and then your daughter marries a guy who, unlike daddy, the business doesn't work well. You've already doomed her to a loveless marriage, because she'll always be frustrated because this guy's business is not succeeding. And then what happens? Early on in your marriage, when the business is hustling, that's when there's problems. Later on, he will succeed. But if you're not there supporting him and saying, this is not your time to provide, let me support. We're together as a team.
Yeah.
So I feel like this, one of the last thing I'll say on that one is, I tell my kids, even Lewis Hamilton, even Tiger Woods, even Eliud Kipchoge has a coach.
Okay.
As great as they are, they always look for help.
Okay.
So for me, I tell people, even if you're married, you think you're okay, look for help. I love what Duncan keeps saying. Look, I'm not too proud to ask for help. Because you may think it's working, but then ask for help from those who've been there ahead of you. And what you'll find is, as long as you as a couple are humble, you're friends, and you're asking for help, you find you're able to go much faster and farther than your contemporaries.
Okay. Prof, that scenario of my money is my money, and your and your money is our money sometimes works, and Pastor said in scenarios where the husband is well endowed, you're a millionaire, you can easily provide for your family without requiring help from your wife. But let's talk about a situation where it's me and you. You earn 50,000 shillings and I earn 50,000 shillings, but I'm the man in the house. There's the notion that I should provide more. How should this play out?
Pastor has said that there are principles that work all the time, and it doesn't matter whether we are talking about 19th century or we are talking about now, because then there before in the 19th century, men were the owners of the land and the goats and everything, and therefore they could provide because they were the custodian of the resources within the family. And the women were now the homemakers, and they're the ones who could use the resources that were being given by the men. Now, bring it now to the 21st century, and just like you have said, the man may be moneyed, and therefore our money, but we have our individual monies. And it can make a lot of sense to say that. But then even the mega money that this man is having should be their money, not his money, because how did it become his money? And you talked about the unclaimed assets, where monies have been lost, monies that would be advancing families. But because there was no disclosure regarding these are the monies and these are the resources that I have, then that secrecy becomes very costly on a family. And therefore, working from a transparent level, where we are saying, yes, I may be the one who is the MD of this company, but the company belongs to us, and these are our resources. Again, the reason as to why our spouse needs to be brought in where we are talking about finances is because we are talking about future, and in a future we do not know how it is or what will come with the future. And therefore, when you are bringing your wife or your spouse along to know what you're doing in this company, you are securing this company and ensuring that it can go into the future. And therefore, couples and families should ensure that whatever they have, resources, assets, in lands, in companies that they are running, that the other party knows what is happening. Because if you leave her behind or you leave him behind, there are realities that are not going to be apparent to him or her, or you are growing alone when she is behind, and therefore you have a disconnect, and that disconnect is affecting children. There is a saying that says that the parents who buy a lot of property give birth to children who are sellers. So you accumulate and you buy, and you would want to keep your children. Now, when they take up, they would want now to sell all that. So why does that happen? So I would want to say that we should be at the same level. Yes, at different levels in terms of how we are discharging the mandate that we have at this point. If it is kitchen, maybe it is the wife's department. And therefore, she's the one who is senior there discharging the mandate that is supposed to be discharged. Or maybe when it comes to like the assets and buying assets, the husband may be the one who is much more prominent there, because again, men have a way with buying things, and therefore it is okay for him to be the one who is the MD and the CEO when it comes to that. Then the wife can step backwards just a little bit, but you are working together in this journey. Okay,
but so now back to my point about 50,000 and 50,000. Should we put it in a joint account? Should we manage it differently?
There is a reason as to why we have joint accounts, and that is why that particular model was brought in place. And you can have your different accounts to take care of the things that are more personal in nature. But say like you have an investment, then that needs now to go to the joint account. And both of you need to be responsible, and you need to be disciplined. We know there are some persons who are not disciplined when it comes to money use. And therefore, the partner is going to feel cheated and feel betrayed, that the way you are using money without consulting me is unfair here. Meaning that is the time that we now need to have a coach. We now need to have someone to help us. Maybe I don't know any other way. This is all that I know. So I need to be trained to make sure that whatever we have our resources, our finances, that I'm truthful and I'm honest and I am responsible and I am responsive even to him.
Okay.
Victor, if I could just add something
Yes.
very small. And, you know, when I think about our African family, I feel pained. We have been colonized, divide and rule. Divide and rule at a tribal basis, divide and rule even at a family basis.
Yeah.
And it would be good for us to learn from those cultures that have made it. Just think even of the corporates that all of us aspire to work for, whether it's Barclays or Colgate or Rothschilds. All these corporates, in fact, it is said that the corporates that exist, if you look at their founding fathers or their founders, these founders had very strong family values. And it is these strong family values that have continued to kind of guide these corporates. And that is how that they have survived the test of time. Now, I don't want to put it that simplistically, but it has been shown, it has been seen that companies that like Wrigley's, you know, have till today, have very strong family values and cultures in them. And that's one of the reasons why they have survived. If you look in a place like the States where we have different immigrants, the immigrants that move from survival to thriving, the cultures that do that, if we look at especially the Asian cultures, they're the ones that have a very strong family value where both people are engaged in the economic activities for the family. So go to Chinatown. For example, you're going to find the mom, the dad are in that restaurant, working together, hustling together. And they've even included their children. You don't want that situation where you're giving birth to sellers. But it's almost like it's a different paradigm. It's a different way of thinking. It is not so much my money, your money. It is what are we planning to build together? What is it that makes us stronger together when we work together? And unfortunately, as Africans, we don't have that.
Okay.
Other cultures have it, and that is why they're moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. We have to take another quick break, but when we come back, of course, we wind up our discussion about the scrutiny that comes with disclosing all your income. Don't go anywhere. Before we go, let's give you a quick, of course, sample of what some of you have been saying. That is Kechem. Kechem says, the two of us after a close deliberation because it's our money. That's, of course, on our question and when we asked you who should manage the money in marriage. And we have more. Yes, Bitange Bosire says, yes, I am married. It's me and me who manages the finances. Thank you, Bitange, for your feedback. We have more. Kevin Bryce says, the only thing I can say is, one, I'm married. I don't know what that should mean, but thank you, Kevin. Zavani Arnold says, I think we are in an era where marriage just don't work. People just try to do everything right, but still disappointments, gloom, and grumpy people out there. It is what it is. I feel like asking Pastor if things don't work, but we have to take this quick break. When we come back, we pick it up from where we left.
May and September intakes are ongoing. Apply now. SMS your details to the numbers on your screen. Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Growing reputation.
What do you think about Molfix?
Actually, another brand was recommended to me, but it had a leakage problem. Then I decided to try Molfix. His clothes don't get wet anymore.
Because Molfix provides extra protection against leakage thanks to its anti-leakage elastic barriers. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Hot 10T is the latest Infinix smartphone with super fast and smooth display with 90 GHz refresh rate, 48 megapixel clearest camera with a nightscape image performance for good photos, even at night. Enjoy smooth and fast gaming experience supported by Helio G70 on Hot 10T. Stay on power with Hot 10T, 5000 mAh super large batteries. Buy Hot 10T now in all Infinix outlets countrywide. You'll get exclusive gifts, 2.5 GB Safaricom data for free, and also have a chance to win Infinix Smart TV.
Salad vegetable cooking oil is the clear flowing secret to tasty meals. Buy 5 liters of salad vegetable cooking oil today and get 250 grams Zesta tomato sauce for free. Iflo Kama Salad. Salad vegetable cooking oil. Available in all cooking outlets countrywide.
The World Athletics Under-20 athletes are the next big names in sports.
Is astonishing.
Be part of their growing pains and glory in wins.
One of the great Olympic moments.
A new world record. It's been obliterated.
Witness greatness in the making live on NTV.
And a fantastic finish.
Setting the pace for the nation.
NTV Jioni, habari za kina, fasaha, tendeti na za kuaminika.
At the young age, I didn't know the quickest way to die. Mom used to take Piritons and sleep. I bought I think 60 of them, taking 10 at a time, went to sleep. I thought I'd never wake up again, and then I was disappointed to wake up.
What thoughts ran through your mind?
I was still disappointed that I didn't do it right. Then there's nothing I can do.
Wow, thank you for your time. How juicy.
Juicy. Juicy.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
You're watching Your World on NTV this morning. My guests are still with me as we wind up this home stretch for this discussion about marriage and money. And let me just start this part with, of course, the feedback that some of you have been sending us. I think we asked you earlier on if you are married, that is, who manages the finances in the relationship. Let's get some more. Chris Mogo says, yes, we manage the family financial situation together. I have not experienced this story of my salary, my choice. Thank you, Chris Mogo. Dixon Olo says, man is the head of the house. He manages everything in the family. Period. Thank you, Dixon Olo, for your feedback. Esau Masibo says, everyone with his own money. The rules in my house. There are rules in my house. No gifts among adults. Maybe kids. Thank you, Esau Masibo. We have more. Yes, Colin Skolo says, a wife can manage very well her husband's salary, but jaribu kushika yake. I think I'll be putting this question to my panelists in a short while. Thank you, Collins. And I think that's Max, of course, part of which could sample from the hundreds of feedback that you've been sending us. And I think that's a very good place to start with about how, and I think it goes back to my question earlier about disclosing, because there's the fear, and I think from this comment that another friend of mine sent me was that do not disclose everything. Disclose only that which you're ready to part with. And the argument was, every time you say, this is my the amount of money I earn, your husband or your wife will always find a way of how this money will be spent. Maybe I can start with you, Carol.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking earlier, we were talking about the choice, the choice of partner or spouse that we're getting married to. And I think even as the questions have been coming in, we've reflected and said there's a lot of pain regarding the issue of finances. And what I'd like us to do is to just pull back a little bit and just say what is causing all these. And unfortunately, relationships and marriage have really been influenced by media. And yes. Oh, sorry, I'm in a media house.
It's
but
fine.
but it has been influenced a lot. And when we watch movies, we just see the romance part of it. We never ever get to see the back end. We don't. And so when we are choosing someone, we choose them mainly probably because of chemistry. We haven't looked at their character. But what attracts us to them is chemistry, our physical attraction to them. And that forms the basis of everything. And that is what the media is really propagating. All you need is to be sexually compatible and to have a lot of chemistry happening between the two of you. And so, and you find that, when you enter into marriage with that basis, then it's a very, I think even people will feel instinctively, I don't know this person's character. This is all that is holding us together. We met somewhere, it could have even been online. After 2 or 3 months, we are moving in together. And the reality is that those conversations, as we're getting to know each other, are very dizzying. I mean, it's a whole whirlwind of emotion that kind of takes over everything else. And we fail to look at the important things. So what is this person's character? When we have not talked character, when we have not taken a while to understand this person, to ask a question, can I trust this person? Then these are the kind of questions that will come up. And we're going to say, really, should I be disclosing? What I would say is that if you find yourself in this situation, it's never too late. It is not too late. And it is not too late to build trust. There's something you can build trust. And I'm not talking about the condoms here. You can actually build trust. And there are things that you can do to actually do that, which is why we were talking about receiving coaching, receiving training, so that you can understand that you're a team and you'll go much further when you're a team.
Kendi, one would argue that on this aspect of disclosing, because I've had so many friends, they say, no, I actually have no problem with the disclosing. I will actually disclose my income. It's just that I will not talk about the exact figure. I'll just give a range. So maybe my pay is, if it's 50,000, you say, inakuanga tu hapo 30.
Okay, I think Victor and both Pastor Caro and Pastor Muridi have really talked about it. The way I look at it is, why would I not disclose? Yes, I've trusted Juma with my life. What is money? Why would I not disclose how much I'm earning? I also think another thing would be to maybe give an approximate. How do we plan for our money? Because if we both agreed, this is how much we're going to spend on, say this is for the home, for our projects. If we plan around our money and we're also honest about it, I don't see why I would be disclosing halfway. Because I think one day, assuming now I used to tell Juma maybe this is how much I earn. Then one day he discovers I used to earn more than that. And maybe there's a phase in our marriage where we used to barely and water because we didn't have money. It will still bring trust issues again. So if we are honest from the beginning and we're able to say this is what I have, this is my payslip, I don't see why I should not disclose that to him. or maybe if it's his business deals, why can't he disclose his business deals? This is how much I'm getting from this deal. Then from out of that, what are we going to do? How do we plan for this money together? Because you're one team.
Let me actually challenge Duncan on that. Duncan, what's your favorite hobby?
Sorry?
What's your favorite thing, like a hobby, something else you do apart from work?
I travel quite a bit.
Wonderful. Let me actually pick it from traveling. So sometimes your pay is 500,000 shillings. And from what this friend of mine had told me is, you know, every time you bring the money together, maybe with Kendi, we have to plan to the last shilling, you know? And maybe you're starting to think, maybe I can just say I earn 400 so that I need to spoil, but I can't work for 30 days and you know, and not spoil myself.
What happened there?
Sorry,
I think
that Duncan, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you now.
Yes, my question was because for some reason, this thing of disclosing sometimes attracts scrutiny. Yeah? So when Kendi starts disclosing some of these things, you realize, oh, she spends 20,000 on her hair. Na wewe barber shop ni so moja. So she starts to get this feeling of, you know what, maybe I should, instead of, you know, disclosing that I earn 500,000, let me disclose 400 so that I can use these other things to kind of spoil myself without all this scrutiny.
Well, what you're saying is right in the examples you're using about Kendi's hair. The first time she used 10,000 on her hair, I got shocked. Like I knew that would be money I would use for about 10 years on my hair. But I think discussing, you know, I grew up with boys, you know, I only have brothers.
Yeah.
And so this thing of 10,000 on hair was a shocker. Then I think I came to Nairobi and its dynamics. I met Kendi. And so truth is, you would need to discuss how money works between the two of you. If you're going, you know, usually they say the first time you meet her, it's glee. Then you realize there's a fee to the glee. Like if she says, in fact, they say in Nairobi, if you meet someone today and you start dating, immediately they start having rent issues. You need to, you know, their grandmother gets sick or something and you need to chip in. But this is my point. The reality is we don't use money the same way. The things that I make, I like going to what we call kibandaski, like enjoy that chicken that has been cooked and boiled. Kendi is Kempinski kind of person. So you need to meet somewhere, agree on how this is. So like if she's talking about how she wants to feel nice and she's going for, it's called pedicure.
Yes.
Or manicure. I used to ask, like, you don't look bad. You're working from home. And you just sit with your nails, like, you're not going for a fashion show, you know? But I discussed that in love, but the reality is there's a way a lady wants to feel. And if you don't know that from a lady, that if you don't understand that, then you will start blaming her. So because of that, then you disclose the whole. And the truth is, I only need soap to survive. She needs, like, oil for her hair, for her eyebrows, her nose, her lips, her neck, like different types of oil and all that. But the point is that we use money differently. The need to disclose, if you discuss your needs, it becomes easier to just say, you know what, there's chicken in Oloitoktok, I'm driving there just to enjoy, and in that way I'm unwinding. And so she is in the picture. However, I don't think scrutiny shouldn't be added to the nitty-gritties where you're being asked and there's 1 shilling change that you received, where did it go? You know, I think in the space of trust, there's a sense in which you also have your allowance, which you can play around with it. Let me put also this way. I heavily give, you know, I'm heavily a giver. And if I didn't get Kendi in my life, chances are my children would not have an inheritance. Yeah, because I would give to even unreasonably, you know, sometimes you've given out and you realize given out rent, you know, things like that. So because of her now disclosing, we even manage it better in that sense.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying.
I like it because he raises another valid point about the issue of giving and which takes me to the issue of family and friends. So you guys are managing your finance as well. There's no issue about how much she spends and what he spends. And then now we have family, Prof. We have your brother is asking to borrow money from your wife, but you guys are running a joint account. Now before you give it out, of course, you have to consult your husband. And then your husband thinks, ai, huyu ndugu yako tulishampatia last time, na kuna cousin yako mwingine tulimpatia. Now you are draining the coffers more than I am draining to our family.
We talked about needs, the family needs, the marriage needs that need to be met. And some of the needs are needs for the extended family. And maybe Kedi's family, part of the family, does not need to be supported so much in a particular season. But when it comes to Duncan's family, it requires to be supported for that season because they are struggling. I think people need to be gracious. People need to be humble. People need to realize that we are doing life together, not so that we can compete or they can compete, but so that life can be meaningful and life can be constructive for them. Sometimes we contend with people who have either personality disorders or even mental disorders, which is a very small population, or people with beliefs and values that require change. Maybe this person who is very selfish and saying you can't use money on your part of the family, could it be, yes, it's realistic and needs to be examined because you're doing too much of it and sometimes you're doing without even consultation. But could it be that you're very selfish and that you need to deal with your selfishness so that we don't hurt other members of the family simply because we cannot agree on this? So I would say that for people who are having mental disorders, they are having personality disorders, they are having beliefs that need to be changed, there is some work in there. But the greatest percentage, if people did well and they went for coaching and for training and they came for therapy, for assessment, for evaluation, things are going to turn out better. So we have an 80% of the population of the marriage that can actually do very well when supported, and if they are nurturing and they are making sure that they capacity build themselves so that they can be able to do the marriage in a better way. Before you guys respond, let me I just remembered something else about the issue of divergent sort of objectives and goals. So we have, you guys raise maybe, let's say, 20,000 each every month to this joint account. So it's 2 million now, or it's 1.2 million now. Naturally, as a man, perhaps the way we normally think, pastor would think, "Ay, wacha tununue kashamba tujenge." And Caro is on the other hand thinking, "No, I want to pursue my masters," and we are all supposed to take from this single account. So we end up in a situation where the goals are divergent, but the account is one.
Yeah, I think that's a very good one. And I think, first of all, let me just say, for that couple, you're in a good place because you even have something you're discussing. The fact that you have the discipline to build, you should, first of all, congratulate yourselves that you've put some money together. Many couples don't do that. But the other thing about it is you need to actually start working on goals together. We're a team. And I think once we understand the value of money and the goals of money, by the way, let me tell you, some of these problems we're discussing even now will finish. That thing that I want to take a road trip for 100K, I'll even subject it to the bigger goal because there's something bigger we're living for as a family. And I think that's what my wife was referring to earlier when she spoke about other communities, because you find that we're no longer competing in a village. We're competing in a global world. And I'm raising my kids to compete against people in other countries. And those people think very differently from us. I remember one of my friends who's Indian, and he had a 2-year-old, and from the time she was 2, on Saturdays, anampeleka office na yeye. You know, come and sit here, Kala, while I'm working. And I remember asking, why do you do that? He said, I'm building this company for her. You know, we're doing this for the kids. This was a firstborn, by the way. But it's already, so for them, it's not about, they have a long-term mentality. So once we've agreed with my wife what are our goals, maybe that masters is what will help us buy the plots.
Okay.
You see, now it's a matter of now being strategic together. We sit down, we actually now objectively say, when you get your masters, what is the income that will bring us? Now, will the plot, if we buy the plot in 2 years we sell, can it buy you the masters without needing to take our saving? Or do we get the masters first In 2 years, you'll now be earning this and we can buy. Now we are now working like every corporate sits down and makes decisions strategically. Okay. Why can't we as a couple, Moreidis Inc., sit down and actually make our decisions strategically as well? We'll go much further than that couple who is competing without goals together.
And in your response before, before I take this feedback, there's something small you've mentioned about the kids and money, which is sometimes at what point should we bring the kids to the conversation about money? Should we teach them when they're young enough? Should we introduce them when they're in the high schools and all that? Carol, briefly before I took this feedback, just talk to us about when maybe we should start having serious conversations about money with the kids without necessarily putting too much pressure on them.
Okay. We actually do talk about kids and money because we don't want to work so hard and to hustle so hard only for our kids to sell everything. In fact, it's normally said, and it's a global problem. It's not just an African problem. But by the third generation of wealth, by the third generation, it's poor. The second generation sold some, the third generation has sold everything, and they're back to square one if that family did not have very strong family values. So for us, when we are training, we talk about starting with 2-year-olds to talk about money. But you see, with a 2-year-old, they don't know anything about money, but they know everything about their toys. Because what we're trying to teach them is to be good stewards all throughout their lives. Because when it comes to money, the key principle there is about being good stewards. So we start with 2-year-olds. If we don't teach a 2-year-old to take care of their toys, and they're careless, they're not putting them away, they're tearing them apart, that's a poor steward. And that issue needs to be followed up.
And that kind of helps when you guys are broke, because there are people who you don't want to show the kids the real picture. You want to show them the rosy picture of how we will continue eating bread and bacon, but in reality...
that's not the case. When they go to primary, what we say is that you start with where the child is. If they can count till 50, give them 50 shillings. But we're not talking about pocket money. We're talking about now you ceding some of your responsibility to them and telling them, actually now, I used to buy you pens and pencils. It costs 50 shillings. So now you buy, so I'm not going to buy you the pencils and pens, or you are now the one who's responsible for that. Again, you're teaching them stewardship and so on and so forth. By the time they are in high school, you should be talking to them about your business deals, or even your work. You should be kind of now introducing them to the real world and telling them, by the way, as a family, we have a budget. This is the way we budget. These are the ways that we are making our business deals so that they can catch on to what you're doing.
What a conversation we are having. We need to take some quick feedback before we close this conversation. Remember, we'd asked you if you're married, who manages the finances in the relationship. This is Bingi Mwenda says, I am married. I married an accountant for exactly that. I think this guy is solving his issues directly. Yes, Michael says, man is the head, but the woman should be the manager. That is a helping field, gathering and putting together what you bring home. You give her a house, she gives you a home. You give her money, she gives you food on the table. Oh, wonderful. You're a poet, Michael. Steka says, my wife is the best manager because zikifika kiwango fulani inakuwa hata sikuli nyumbani, safe in her pockets. Thank you, Steka. We have Moyes Piers. Prince says, I am not, but if you want a best home, allow the woman to manage. Thank you, Piers. Yes. Sammy Biggie says, if we both contribute, both of us can manage. If I am the only one working hard for the finances, then I can manage by myself. Thank you, Sammy. And yes, we still have some more. James Ignatius says, after my approval, my wife does. She's a good manager. All right, do we have more? Yes, Ras Morio says, I'm not married, but the day I'll get married, it's me to manage all the finances. Thank you, Ras Morio. And yes, Harun Jeroge says, I'm married, but I do it by myself. Thank you, Harun. And yes, do we still have more? Nope. But yes, so I think something I'm noting, even as we get to your closing remarks, is most people believe the women are good managers. Is this by science? Is this God-given? Is it?
Right. Even with what we have seen, the responses that have been given, the men are believing that women are good managers. Yeah. But again, men are the ones who are commenting. I didn't see a woman commenting, meaning that this is a very critical issue for men, but it's a critical issue for both so that they can be able to look at it, to plan it, to see how implementation is, to evaluate and to see the changes that need to be done.
Okay, and now because we've started in 40 seconds, Prof, your closing remarks.
Right. I would say money and finances and resources are quite an important element or aspect in family, in marriage. And it is something that should not be talked about once, but should be talked about periodically. And couples should know when we want to talk about our finances, are we going to be having once a month meeting, basically to look at what we are doing? Because just like I said in the beginning, money is a facilitator. And at the same time, money helps in the survival of a family, individuals within the family, and also carries through important aspects within the family. And therefore, as an important subject as it is, it should be given time.
All right. Kendi and Duncan, in just 30 seconds, your closing remarks for any young couple that is watching and they're wondering how we can go about this issue of money in marriage.
Okay, Victor, my remarks would be, when you guys come together in a marriage, you are one team. You are not fighting one another, but you're working together as a team. And secondly, marriage is not bad. If you prepare and put measures in place, it might not give you 100%, but at least it will give you good conversations, and it will give you a good platform for you guys to be able to handle the issues that you go through in marriage.
Okay, all right. Maybe Duncan.
For me, I think talk about it as a couple, preempt scenarios. You might be dating when you're broke, then money comes. Preempt, talk about all this as you go and work as a team.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. My people.
I think for me, it's a bigger picture. We are Africans competing in a global market. If we don't put our finances together as a couple, we'll be swallowed up by the world and will remain poor. So we need to work together as a team.
All right.
She's so wise. I'll say out of every 100 couples by the age of 65, 1 will be wealthy.
Wow.
4 will have financial stability, will have actually financial security. 15 will have assets but not financially secure. 80 will end up in poverty. And I'm speaking about statistics in this nation.
Yeah.
So I want to say to you, it's your choice. Even Eliud Kipchoge has a coach. I want to advise everybody watching this show, find a coach. Prof talked about going for therapy. We said we have a course. If you're not married, do a course, a premarital course. We call ours NDOA, and it's available online. If you're married, there are courses as well for you. We offer couples and money, and it's a great course to help you figure that out as a couple. But it's actually your choice whether you'll end up among that 5% who have financial stability or the 95 who won't.
All right.
Choice is yours.
Perhaps as the only person who's not married on the panel, I'm not the best to give advice. But I think my only takeaway from all what you have said would be that you do it together, talk about it together, and if you're in doubt, perhaps seek help from all the coaches who are fantastic and are around. That brings us to the end of today's conversation. It has been fantastic. We have thoroughly enjoyed your company through this. We are glad we were able to sample part of your feedback and take some of your phone calls, but we couldn't take all of it. But many thanks to my guests in studio this morning, Pastor Murithi Wanjau and Pastor Carol Wanjau, Professor Catherine Kashuda, she's a counseling psychologist, as well as Duncan and Kendi Juma, who are joining us from home, that is virtually this morning. I've been your host, Victor Kiprop. You need to keep watching NTV because other programs are coming up, including NTV Sasa.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses all around the bathroom. Blue
for the toilet
and red
for the bathroom.
Hey, what's up? It's Antonio Sola to have some amazing news for you. Ha! Something fresh, something new, something exciting, something free happening right here on NTV. This week, 27th of May at 10 p.m. It is the biggest party, NTV Mashup Party, hosted by yours truly and DJ E on the 1 and 2. And we have special guests. It is the Jack and Prince Mpezisi all the way from Zimbabwe, coming to launch their brand new music video called Free. Keep using the hashtag FreeTheJacks and let's be free.
These flags are representing the people that live in Philadelphia. That's what I'm doing.
To make it in America, you need to be focused, steady, you need to be consistent, you need to work.
My Swahili is still pretty hopeless. Jambo Bwana, Missouri Sana.
You can take an African out of Africa, but you can't take out the African in them.
The experience in Kenya has been a great one. It's been positive. The weather is great. It's like our home city in Nigeria, which is Jos.
I watch Daring Abroad. Congratulations for what you do.
To get Mfariji by Ed Lusanji, dial *812*800#. Skiza, Non-Nation.
So how do you safisha your ears? I'm Dr. Austin Oyuer, and this is Learn in a Minute. So how do you clean your ears? Unasafishanga aje masikio? Wewe ni wale wasewa kakijiti unaingiza huko ndani, ama kakiberiti, ama kifuniko ya bairo unaingiza huko ndani, nasikia kale ka feeling kapoa. Manze, si poa. Machiki masikio ni kitu sensitive sana. Ukifanya hivyo unajiumiza. So what do you need to do? Chukua face towel, wekelea hapa kwa kidole, panguza tu nje. Just clean outside and that's it. Na masikio zako zitakuwa safi, imagine. Sawa? I'm Dr. Austin Oyuer and this is Learn in a Minute.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.